Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to a new episode of Islam Unveiled. Brothers and sisters everywhere, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is a beautiful greeting of Islam. Peace be with you, God's mercy and His blessings. I also like to welcome our guests here in the studio once again. How are you all? If you remember, in the last episode, we left with a question that we couldn't answer because we ran out of time. The question was, after we defined the term Islam and what it means, the question was that what if somebody is interested to become a Muslim, but he or she isn't ready to fulfill the commandments which God requires from a Muslim to do? That he is not ready to fast for 30 days, or he doesn't think that he is ready to perform pilgrimage now, or. What should he or she do? We say, and Allah knows best, that the most important thing that one should not die but in a state of belief. Allah the Almighty says in the Quran that Allah forgives all sins except for one sin. That sin is to set partners to Him in worship. People who are very righteous and very generous, but they do not believe in the oneness of God. God would definitely reward them in this life, but in the hereafter, they will have no credit, because they were not doing that for the sake of the true God. They were doing it for whatever. They missed the right direction. So God says that He does not forgive certain partners to Him. Am I saying it is okay to become a Muslim and you don't have to pray? Or am I saying that, just saying that there is no God worthy of worship but only one God, and Muhammad is His messenger, would be sufficient to give you salvation on the Day of Judgment by itself? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying it is definitely necessary for any person to be able to enter heaven on the Day of Judgment, to believe in the oneness of God, to believe in the prophethood of Muhammad, peace be upon him, and also to fulfill the commandments of God, to do what He wanted us to do, and to abstain from His prohibitions as much as we can. We do our best to fulfill that. But what if somebody is not ready, because you cannot do everything at once. You cannot overnight change from a person who is so wicked, alcoholic, every night with a different woman, and now you read the Quran or somebody informed you about Islam, you want to become a Muslim. It is very difficult for ordinary people to change 180 overnight. So it would take time gradually. As long as you are in the process of change, may Allah the Almighty pardon you. But the most important thing is to seize the opportunity and accept Islam and submit yourself and surrender totally your will, your free will, to the will of Allah the Almighty. In case that you die in this condition, you have a credit before Allah the Almighty that you believed in His oneness. And now, in this episode, after praising Allah the Almighty and sending the best peace and salutation upon His Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, we're going to live with another concept in Islam, which is the most important concept, the concept of God. Who is God? Who is the Lord of Muslims? Whom do Muslims worship? We have heard so many rumors and stereotyping about Muslims and what they worship. And today, we're going to unveil the truth. Allah is the personal name of the Muslims' God. Muslims and the believers worship only Allah. The word Allah is a proper noun, which means in Arabic, the only God who is worthy of worship. Nothing else can be called this name other than Allah the Almighty. The term Allah has no plural or gender, and this shows the uniqueness of this term when compared with the word God in English, for instance. Because God has plural, which is gods, and many people actually worship more than one God. Some people worship 3 in 1 or 1 in 3, and some people worship animals, and some people worship angels, and some people, humans, intelligent people, worship Satan worshippers. Not only that, some worship stones. They carve stones by themselves, by their own hands, and they worship them. So they have gods. Some worship the sun, the moon, the stars, etc. Countless false deities. But in Islam, Allah is the personal name of the only true God who is worthy of worship. And no one besides Allah should be taken as God. Also, the word God, its feminine in English is goddess. But in Islam, the word Allah, the personal name of the ultimate true God who is worthy of worship, has no plural or gender. It is very interesting to know that the word Allah is also the name of God in Aramaic, which is the language of Jesus, peace be upon him. This language, Aramaic, is a sister language to Arabic. To Muslims, Allah is the Almighty Creator and Sustainer. So in order to grasp on the meaning of worship and who is God in Islam, we have to look at it this way. First of all, we gotta believe that the creation needs a creator. And the creator has to be only one. Otherwise, if it was more than one, they would fight together with the first dispute, and that would lead to a chaos. The Quran recorded all of that and proved logically that this magnificent creation, which is amongst its items, the heavens, earth, humans, jinn and angels, stars, sun, the moon, maybe aliens, animals and insects, these are some of the members of the creatures of the only true creator. Okay, imagine somebody made something, created something, and he ignored it. It would die, it would vanish. But the creator, the Almighty Creator, He is also the sustainer, because He created us and He's sustaining for us our provisions. The provision of every single one of us, fulfilling our needs, and also the needs of other living creatures, animals, jinn, angels, insects, the microbes, and the microorganisms, and the viruses. Allah the Almighty is the one who is a sustainer, who's sustaining the provision of every living creature. In one verse in the Quran, Allah the Almighty says, وَمَا مِن دَابَّةٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِلَّا عَلَى اللَّهِ رِزْقُهَا, which means, and there is not a single living creature that crawls or walks on earth, but its provision is due upon God. No one else can provide others, not even himself or herself, but only God, and by His leave or His permission. He's the one who orders the sky or the clouds to send down the rain in order to fall on a fertile land to bring forth fruits and vegetations, so that we will eat and the livestock would eat, and we can also eat the flesh of the livestock, and the cycle would go on and on and on. A very simple act. If God withholds the rain, what will happen? A drought, famine, and people will die, and animals will vanish. Death. No rain, no water, that equals death. What about if water comes in abundance, more than our need? What will happen? Floods, disasters, hurricanes, tornadoes, that also would lead to death. So God, the Creator, the Sustainer, is the one who's controlling all of that and keeping balance, so that the sun would not draw any further, or otherwise it would burn us. If only 1 millimeter the sun would draw nearer to the earth, it will burn every living creature. Also, if the sun moves away a little bit, we'll freeze. So Allah the Almighty is keeping this balance in order to maintain this cycle for a limited time, until the day of judgment, when Allah the Almighty will decide it is over and it is time to resurrect all the dead for recompense or accountability. If you really wanted to know about God in Islam, in brief, and if you wanted to know whom do Muslims worship, there is one verse in the Quran, one chapter in the Quran. The Quran consists of 114 chapters. It is number 112, chapter number 112, and it is known in Arabic as Al-Ikhlas, or sincerity. And this chapter, which consists of 4 verses and only 1 line, represents 1/3 of the entire Quran, because it covers the concept of faith and belief. It introduces God in the best form. It explains the nature of God and whom do Muslims worship. The verse says, after beginning by saying, in the name of Allah, the beneficent, the gracious, the most merciful, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Say, O Muhammad, his messenger, to your followers, to mankind, inform them about God. Who is He? Allah is the only one. He is the only one who is worthy of worship. No one is like Him. There is no other copy of God. He is the only one. Allahu Samad. He is the eternal refuge. He is the self-sufficient. He is the sustainer, whom everybody rely on Him, and He does not need any help from no one. لم يلد ولم يولد. Very important phrase. He begets not, nor was He begotten. He has no beginning, nor will He have an end. He is the eternal. He is the everlasting. He has no beginning, and He doesn't have children, nor does He need to have children. وَلَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ كُفُوًا أَحَدٌ. And no one is ever comparable to Him. No one is equivalent to Him. No one would have any of His traits or can be characterized with any of His characteristics. Furthermore, with the definition of the word Allah, and whom do Muslims worship in Islam, after this short break, inshallah, we'll get to continue. So please hang around and stay tuned until we come back. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. There is another very interesting verse in the Quran which is worth of studying and learning. It is verse number 255 of the second chapter of the Quran. This chapter is known as Al-Baqarah. We're going to refer to it a lot, so remember and mark down this name. The Baqarah means the cow. This verse is talking about the uniqueness of God and who is Allah. In order to worship someone, you have to know who is He. Or it doesn't make any sense to bow down and prostrate and obey someone whom you don't know. You don't know his nature. And that's why how some people ended up worshiping animals, or worshiping cows, or snakes, or humans like them, and so on. The verse in brief says, Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum. It is Allah, whom there is no one other than Him should be worshipped. No one worthy of worship but Him. Al-Hayy, the ever-living. No one is ever-living but Allah. What happened to your grandparents and great-great-grandparents? What happened to all the prophets before Muhammad and to Muhammad, peace be upon him? Everybody dies. Every living creature shall die. And this is what God concluded in the Quran. كُلُّ شَيْءٍ هَالِكٌ إِلَّا وَجْهَهُ. Everything will vanish, everything will perish except Him. Al-Hayy, Al-Qayyum, the everlasting sustainer. So He sustains for every living creature. He created and He sustains constantly. And it is just beyond imagination. How can you imagine to provide for billions and billions of living creatures, not just humans and other creatures at the same time, and paying attention to the needs of every single one without getting tired? That must be God. That should be Allah. And no one would have this quality but only one. That is Allah. So the second quality in the verse, besides being the only one, the ever-living, the third would be Al-Qayyum, the sustainer. The next one is very interesting. لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم. Before I give you the meaning of this, I want to tell you an incident that happened with Prophet Moses, peace be upon him. Prophet Moses was one of the prophets of Islam, because all the prophets came to preach the oneness of God. And Islam is to surrender yourself and submit yourself and your will to the will of only one God. So he once was asked by one of his followers. He said, Moses, does God sleep? So Moses, peace be upon him, asked Allah the Almighty the same question. He said, I have been asked, do you sleep? What is the answer? He said, in order to answer this question, I want you to carry 2 flasks, 2 glasses overnight and keep standing. Don't go to sleep. And be sure not to fall asleep. So he did. After 1/3 of the night had passed already, Moses was so tired because he was standing and carrying the 2 flasks in 2 hands. So he wanted to rest, but he remembered that you should not sleep. So he tried to alert himself. He tried to keep himself awake. But after 2/3 of the night, he could not resist anymore. So he knelt down and the glasses fell off his hands and they were broken. So he got up of his slumber and he was very alert and he was very worried to what happened because he could not maintain the 2 glasses. So Allah the Almighty said to Moses, peace be upon him, imagine if I go to sleep or if I rest, what will happen to the heavens and the earth? You could not maintain the 2 glasses for 1 night, for a few hours. Imagine if I leave the heavens and earth without managing, without maintenance. Imagine if I ignore my creatures for some time in order to rest or sleep. What will happen to them? Yes, it was a practical lesson. So this verse says, God is the one whom لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم. Not just that he doesn't sleep, neither a slumber nor a sleep overtakes him. Because he doesn't need that. And that's why those who characterize God as human are disbelievers. Those who say that God created the heavens and earth in 6 days, then he rested on the 7th, are ignorant. Because how could you say that God, who is the creator of this magnificent creation, that needs to rest? If somebody is in need for rest, then he experiences fatigue. He gets tired. He doesn't deserve to be God. God is totally unlike any of that. Neither a slumber nor a sleep overtakes him. مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يَشْفَعُ عِنْدَهُ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهِ. Who is he that who can intercede with him without his permission? Intercession is a subject that inshallah we will single out a whole episode to speak about it. So we will postpone it until later on. To him belongs the heavens and the earth and what they contain. They're his. He created them and he created everything, so they should belong to him. أَنْ يَعْلَمُ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَمَا خَلْفَهُم. He knows everything about his creatures in this life, and he knows what will happen to them in the hereafter. As a matter of fact, that has been explained furthermore by Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, who said that 50,000 years before Allah created the heavens and the earth, he recorded in a book that is preserved with him the knowledge of everything that will happen to us before even we were created. How long you will live, how much food you will need in your life, when will you die, where and when will you get married, and how you will meet your life mate. All of that have been known by Allah by his infinite knowledge. While no one knows anything about him, nor can encompass anything of his knowledge except by his leave. All the knowledge which we achieve in this life, we only achieve because he permitted us to learn it. He encouraged us to learn, but no matter how much we learn, it is nothing compared to the knowledge, the infinite knowledge of Allah the Almighty. Well, I'm afraid that we're going to end up this episode before answering some of your questions. So I will tackle some of those questions, and hopefully, inshallah, next episode we'll continue explaining the concept of God, Allah, in Islam. What's your name?
My name is Khalid. I am from Bosnia, and I have a question.
Okay.
The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, then we can ponder the creations of Allah, but we can't ponder the essence of Allah. Why is that? And is Islam still a religion of reason, logic, and proof, even we are not allowed to think about such things?
This is indeed an excellent question. It is very, very advanced. You're taking us to a very advanced level. It is indeed a fact that Prophet Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, said that if you want to know about Allah, then ponder and reflect upon His creatures, His creation. If you like the heavens and their structure, if you like the earth and the mountains, the sun and the moon, and you think that their creation is so great, the greatest one is the one who created them. So He encouraged us to ponder upon the creation. But He said, do not think about the being of the Creator. Why? Because in order to think about something, that means you have to visualize it. And in fact, no one have ever managed to visualize Allah, not even in a dream. Prophet Moses just got to speak to Allah, but he haven't seen Him. No one have seen Allah. Only in the hereafter in heaven we'll get to see Allah the Almighty in heaven for those who will enter paradise. Prophet Moses, it has been recorded in the Quran and in the original text of the Old Testament that he wanted to see God. Right? What happened? He said, Rabbi arini anzur ilayk. I want to see you. He said, you can't. Your access is very limited. You cannot encompass seeing me. I'm beyond space. I'm above all. I'm the most magnificent. I'm the greatest light. So he insisted. So Allah the Almighty made a deal with him. He said, I'm going to expose a very little bit, a ray of my light to the mountain, one of the mountains in Sinai. If the mountain can stand the glow of this light, then you will be able to see me. Moses is a human being, and we're talking about a mountain, rocks and stones, solid, maintaining the firmness and the stability of earth. And once Allah the Almighty allowed just a small beam of His light to shed on the mountain, it collapsed and turned into dust. Moses, peace be upon him, upon seeing that, could not take it, so he fell unconscious. And when he woke up, he apologized to God. So if you cannot see God, if you cannot encompass Him by your knowledge, if you cannot visualize Him, how would you think about Him? So how do we know Him? We need to know about Him. Allah the Almighty did us the best favor. He sent to us the messengers, and He revealed unto them His words in order to explain to us who is God, what are His beautiful traits, and how do we worship Him, what does He want from us, and how can we see Him in the hereafter. And the biggest proof that Islam is a religion of reasoning and logic, many Quranic verses trying to prove and establish the oneness of God with reason and logic. For instance, a verse which says, لَوْ كَانَ فِيهِمَا آلِهَةٌ إِلَّا اللَّهُ لَفَسَدَتَا. Had there been any other God besides Allah, then the heavens and the earth would have been ruined. They would fight over them. Furthermore, talking about the humanship of Jesus, peace be upon Him, and His mother, and the virgin birth of Jesus, and it's just one of the miracles that Allah made, and Jesus is not the Son of God, nor is He God. He said, مَا الْمَسِيحُ ابْنُ مَرْيَمَ إِلَّا رَسُولٌ قَدْ خَلَتْ مِنْ قَبِلِهِ الرُّسُلُ وَأُمُّهُ صِدِّيقَةٌ كَانَا يَأْكُلَانِ الطَّعَامِ. Jesus, the son of Mary, and His mother, Mary, peace be upon them, were just humans. And the proof to that, the logical proof, reason. They used to eat. They used to walk amongst humans. So what does it mean that they used to eat? They used to eat, that means eat, drink, defecate, urinate, answer the call of nature, sleep. These are the traits of a human being who is in need. If you do not eat, what will happen to you? You will die. If you do not drink for 3-4 days, you will die. But God is ever living, and He is a sustainer. He does not die because He does not need to eat nor to drink, and obviously not to sleep. So there are so many verses, just the time would not allow us to cover some more that would reason and invite not just the believers, but mankind in general to think, reflect, and ponder in order to come to the conclusion that there has got to be one Creator, one God who is worth of worship. That's Allah alone. Brothers and sisters, unfortunately we ran out of time. And until next time, I leave you in peace. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.